As I began to really dig into this story, that was the thing the Holy Spirit, you'll hear me say that a lot tonight. I say that not because I feel like a mist shows up in my life. I had a little boy ask me in a meeting in Missouri recently. He said, "You said God told you something tonight. What did it sound like?" And I thought it was a pretty smart question. I mean, if you're going to say God told me, be ready for someone to say, what did he sound like? And so I don't mean that I was talking to God and I heard the audible voice of God. I mean an identification happens in your spirit. To me, I call that the voice of the Spirit. Because I don't believe the Holy Spirit lives outside of me. I believe the Holy Spirit lives inside of me. It's the same reason that I didn't start tonight by asking the Holy Spirit to come into this conference room. I figure when we walked in, he was here. And so he doesn't need to be invited. Who are you anyway to invite him to anything? Right? Hey, you have permission to come in my house. He doesn't need permission. I mean, he's there. So I feel that voice inside. So as I wrestled with this text, one of the things I've missed that I felt like the Holy Spirit showed me was pay very close attention to what happens the day after the dream. Why does Jacob get into a wrestling match the night before he meets Esau? Because I think psychologically and internally and in his soul, he's in a wrestling match when he goes to bed. And the wrestling match is, I'm going to die tomorrow at the hands of a man that wants to kill me. And the preparation to meet Esau is he needs to go meet God. He needs to wrestle some things out with God so that he's ready to go wrestle some things out with Jacob. But here's the real question is, what does he see when he sees the face of God? We don't know. What's he look like? And if you're thinking, well, no one sees God's face and lives, then you're ahead. You're ahead of where we're going, but we're getting there. So let's don't do that yet. Let's don't cheat and leak into the New Testament, because that's cheating. Don't leak forward. Stay with Jacob. What does he see? He doesn't tell you, but he knows he saw something. Therefore, just as he crossed over Penuel, the sun rose on him, and he limped on his hip. And to this day, the children of Israel don't eat the muscle that shrank, which is on the hip of the socket, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip in the muscle that shrank. And so I think a couple of things are happening. The next day we're going to go meet Esau, but a couple of things are happening. And one is Jacob wrestles with God to get a grip on who God is and to learn God's way. He ends up seeing God's face. And I think you come out walking different because an encounter with God means you leave a piece of yourself at the encounter. And I don't mean that just the day you give your heart to Jesus. I mean that in every encounter that you have with the Spirit, a little piece of you changes. You're walking this thing out, and as you walk this thing out, if you're grappling properly in the world, you will be changing constantly. And as we walk this out, if there's never any change and we don't think differently and we don't respond differently, I wonder if you're taking the match serious. I wonder if you're truly wrestling with who you could be. And we actually brag about constancy in the American church. And what I mean by that is people brag about the guy that never changes. Come hear this guy. Well, he's never, in the midst of a shaky world, he's the exact same guy he was when I was growing up. And we say that as if that's the highest compliment you could give someone, is that they are exactly what you knew 10 years ago. And I personally now feel as if that might be the highest insult that I could have on my own wrestling and grappling with who I could be tomorrow. If I'm the exact same guy in 10 years that I am today, then I spent 10 years avoiding the wrestling match because there were things about me that could have matured and been enlightened and fell off. And maybe my walk would have changed and maybe my name would have changed. And that's not bad. That's good because I've got my own Esau coming. The story's trying to tell you that there's a dragon coming on the scene tomorrow, and his name in this situation is Esau. Now, you may not have your own younger brother whom you've cheated out of an inheritance, and you may not wrestle with a literal angel tonight, but you do have a dragon walking into your valley tomorrow. You just haven't met him yet. Would you agree with that? Yeah. I mean, maybe not tomorrow, but he's somewhere lurking around the corner. And you don't deserve him. But who are you? You don't deserve to not face him either. you're a human on the earth, and humans on the earth face dragons, and they, in their weak and immature stage, they blame God for the dragon. And in their developmental stage, they blame their parents for the dragon, and their spouse for the dragon, and their next door neighbor for the dragon, or the government, whatever that dragon is. And sometimes he's health, and sometimes he's opposition, and sometimes he's poverty, and sometimes he's famine, and sometimes he's lust, and sometimes he's jealousy, and sometimes he's just overwhelming discouragement and depression and guilt and shame and condemnation. But he has no love for you. And you're going to go face him, and you have to grapple with something to prepare.